Faries. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. Head of leagues at Activision Blizzard Esports. Super excited to be doing this with my partner in crime, and Kristin, but I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. Kristin, Connelly here. I head our marketing for Activision Blizzard Esports as well, notably the Overwatch League and Call of Duty leagues, as Johanna mentioned. Super excited to be here as well.
Great. So we'll dive in. I know that we're going to give a little bit of an overview of what we do here day to day. I know everyone is leading into the topic of gaming and esports. It's getting bigger by the day, it feels like, but sometimes we don't always get the chance to put some form and fashion behind what we do day to day. And hopefully this keynote will be an opportunity to share that. And for those who don't know, just to give you some macro trends and big figures to anchor ourselves in why gaming, why esports, just how big this opportunity really is as an industry. You can see some of the detail here on this slide. 1.6 billion revenue projected by 2023, which is really only 2 years from now. Over 100 billion hours have been watched on YouTube in 2020 alone. And it's just a staggering number when you really think about this is engaged activity on one platform. And there are many media platforms that are really doing this at scale now. So it's really exciting to see just how powerfully people are leaning in and really using the platforms that we very much ownership with on a day-to-day basis, an enormous clip. 500 million active fans in 2020 across gaming and esports. So again, very, very engaged group of people. We'll talk a little bit about the demographics there, what that means for the opportunity we see, especially along age lines, and multi-million-dollar prize pools. So, these are not small potato efforts. These are the most elite players in their craft, but they're also competing for major dollars now. And it really levels up the entire conversation about just how seriously our players take this and how we reward them in kind. And at Activision Blizzard Esports, we are, the central function for Activision Blizzard King around making global entertainment. So we often say we're not just an esports company, we are a global entertainment company. We think about how are we going to put competitive entertainment on the map in all kinds of creative and dynamic ways, whether that's live events, you can see the picture in the background here, whether that's certainly in the content and the marketing efforts that Kristin leads, and she'll talk a lot more about. There's just so much to that definition, and sometimes we want to make sure that people don't just think about esports in a sort of niche way or this one-note way. When we think about our role for the company, it's to stand on the shoulders effectively of some of the biggest gaming IP in the world and to create amazing experiential and immersive entertainment experiences for our fans through the lens of competition. And we have this as our anchor point when we talk about our vision. It's really to be the most innovative, scalable, valuable developer of competitive entertainment. So when we think about success, we don't just think about doing things in a highly compelling way and a way that really scales across borders and really can go global, but also value. We talk a lot about what does it mean to create durable businesses that generate, not just from a revenue standpoint, but also from a longevity standpoint. So it's really, really cool to think about both the business opportunity of what we get to do, but also the creative infrastructure we built for engagement. And those two are of equal value to us day in and day out. So I'll hand it over to Kristin. She's going to talk about what that really means in the form of our biggest leagues.
Awesome. Thanks, Johanna. So we operate two main professional esports leagues. One is the Call of Duty League shown here, and the sister league being the Overwatch League. What's really incredible about being able to operate two leagues and a lot of our team members working across both leagues is we're able to kind of compare and contrast, but also take learnings from one league and apply them to the next. And it's just really special from the marketing and creative aspect because they're very different brands. So we spend a lot of time talking about how we attract our audiences differently and how we represent them differently with our branding and our marketing efforts. But first shown here is the Call of Duty League, which just launched in 2020, a very special year to launch a brand new professional esports league. And it launched with a bang in a very cold, blistery day in Minnesota to a sold out crowd. The Rocker put on the opening weekend. And the initial plan was to host home series events, just like you see in traditional professional sports, where the home team hosts a couple teams for the weekend and competes, and take those around to our 12 teams that are based in 4 different countries. We'll talk a little bit later how we pivoted from that initial plan as kind of everything changed in March. But the Call of Duty League is based on the #1 selling game franchise in the US for a decade, of course, Call of Duty. I'm sure everyone just saw how incredible this past year was for Call of Duty and the Warzone property. There's 200 million plus players playing Call of Duty around the world. And the Call of Duty League represents the best, most competitive players looking to win the title. So in contrast to the Call of Duty League, we have the Overwatch League, which is a few years older. We launched in 2018. There are 20 teams around the world representing 6 different countries. And this is based on Blizzard's game, Overwatch, which is also a truly global game played in 190 different countries. What's cool about the Overwatch League is it really bridges the East and the West, being a popular game in Asia, notably in China and South Korea, as well as here in the United States and North America. So we had this vision of going in this home and away model this past year, bringing both the Call of Duty League and the Overwatch League around the world in sold out arenas, just like you would think of the NBA coming to different arenas and playing their matches locally in front of their hometown crowds with that home field advantage. As we all know, things took a little bit of a shift and we reimagined what both of these leagues stand for. But before that happened, luckily, we had just some really incredible opportunities the past few years before COVID to play in arenas in front of sold out crowds. So the top left you see here is the Wells Fargo Center. We sold this out for the Overwatch League Grand Finals this past year. And below it, you can see is how we partnered with our great brands from Coca-Cola to Toyota to T-Mobile to bring an interactive fan fest 3 hours before the event, just like you would experience in many other traditional sports, such as if you go to the Super Bowl. And you can see the stadium and the arena in the background. And then the top right, that is the opening event I mentioned with the Minnesota Rocker at the Armory, also incredible sold out crowd with all of the Call of Duty League fans. So we've had a lot of success bringing what has been the traditional professional sports model to fans around the world, particularly for our tentpole events. And then also expanded our reach with incredible partnerships and collaborations, such as the Billionaire Boys Club collaboration shown here on the bottom right with the Call of Duty League, finding really innovative ways to provide that immersive experience, as well as access to our fans around the world. And another awesome success that we had this past year was transitioning from Twitch to YouTube as our main platform for viewing both the Overwatch League and the Call of Duty Leagues. What's incredible about this is just the access to content that YouTube provides. We all know the behemoth that YouTube is for content and creators, but even more special than that is within the gaming space. There's over 200 million gamers a day watching more than 50 billion hours of content on YouTube, which is just so incredible. And it's forced us to up our game in the content that we're creating and bringing our fans and bringing that special live experience to YouTube as our platform on YouTube Gaming.
Yeah, and as Kristin mentioned, right, like we even harken back to the pictures that she showed in Grand Finals in Philly and in Minnesota. We miss those days. I think a lot of people in traditional sports and events miss all of those days because just like every other property out there, the COVID pandemic hit us hard, and it hit us right around the same time it was hitting a lot of other traditional sports leagues and other entities. So you see here sort of what went from sold out arenas, thousands of avid fans, really getting their fun experiences that they had been really so excited about with our first launch here at CDL last year, to a totally new opportunity, and we were faced with the question of how we're continue to operate. I'll just talk a little bit about why versatility is in esports DNA. It's in Activision Blizzard's esports DNA, but also just categorically, we often talk about this. I think it's been such a blessing, despite those challenges, to work in the industry that we work in. Esports were born digital, as we say. They started in dorm rooms, in basements, in hotel lobbies. These are digitally native, not only fans and players, but a community that could ease into a shift back to some of its roots in some way. And so that was really cool on a level, to be able to pivot with agility so quickly, and not have it be so foreign, and as far as bringing these live experiences into now a remote online world. All that said, significant need to look at the structural adjustments that needed to be made. It wasn't just a flip of the switch by any stretch of the imagination. There was so much work and sweat equity that everybody was putting in really around the clock to do this in a matter of weeks. And it did require some adjusting and tweaking of our schedule, of our competition formats. We shifted in many ways for both Overwatch League and Call of Duty League to even more of an amplification around major tournament moments, what we would call tent poles often. And we really started to generate back into a success point, which we'll talk about a little bit later, having made those adjustments to our plans. The remote production capabilities were world-class. Everybody at ABK rallied to think about, how do we think about server support around the various continents where that would be needed for online play to happen, again, live at a professional level with the most integrity and fairness and balance possible. Equipment would we need? What other vendor partnerships did we have to strike in order to make sure, especially as we're moving into more often than not cloud-based technology tools, to do this at a level that felt top quality, not just a bare bones operational shortcut to a baseline level, delivering at a world-class level that we would expect of ourselves, even in this new way. And then lastly, of course, prioritizing the health and safety of our staff, everyone involved, from players and coaches to our partners and vendors to our fans. This was the number one reason. This continues to be the number one priority for all of us. And to be able to do this from, as we often joke, bedrooms around the world was quite the feat, but it also keeps everyone as safe as possible. And it's just such a really heartening feeling to know that that was always what this was about, and we were able to deliver on that. So this is just an example of what we mean by that. I won't belabor too many of these points, but you can see linearly the example of the 2020 Call of Duty League season, which started, as Kristin referenced, in the Armory back in Minneapolis to a sold-out crowd. It was an amazing first foray back in January, almost a year to the day now. We had announced our world tour shortly thereafter. That's where all of those types of events were going to come to our various 12 cities across North America and we were super excited, and we were able to do several of those major events, not only in Minnesota, but across the pond in London, as well as in Atlanta and Los Angeles. And it was really awesome and so electric to walk into the building and see those things. Of course, come the pandemic in March, as I talked about, we required those structural pivots. We really took our time out. But it was really only a matter of weeks later that we were completely back on schedule and on air. You can see here on April 10th, we announced our return to form. We kicked off fully online home series, Dallas Empire, who originally was supposed to be, again, planning for their live arena-based event. We're now hosting their home series online, and we stretched the content out to multiple days and effectively tried to get back as close to parity in terms of what fans were expecting to see with the schedule. That was the first real big weekend back. And we continue to try and innovate, as we talked about. We brought in the popularity of Warzone that Kristin mentioned, the Battle Royale, free-to-play, wildly successful next chapter of the COD franchise that also launched from that March time period. We were able to really bring in Warzone weekends and dedicated content into the CDL experience to great success. We saw a lot of new fans, new viewers come into the funnel that way. And we're able to attach partners, as you see here, into some of that programming. We started to reward and incentivize the behaviors we would like to see with token drops and other ways that viewers who were tuning in could also be rewarded in game and really reinforce that behavior towards the back end of our season. And then in July and August, we went really big on making sure that our championship weekend could happen in a stellar way, despite not being able, again, to do that in an arena-based format. So you see here some of the dedicated champion packs, better known as MTX. So fans and players of Call of Duty were able to drop into the game and buy CDL-themed championship weekend gear and really start the marketing rush, if you will, the promotional month that rallied into August, our playoffs, our postseason, and of course the Super Bowl of the CDL season and Champs Weekend. And what was very cool operationally about that is you can see this picture. We put Champs Weekend in Verdansk Stadium. We have our own stadium in Warzone. We figured why not use the most COVID-proof stadium you've got, and that's the one in our game. And it was just a tremendous, awesome effort to see the collaboration across our studio partners, and everybody at the franchise to make sure that when we were lighting up Champs Weekend, we weren't just doing that in the real world spaces, if you will, but also in the virtual spaces that we had. And it worked out. So Kristin can talk more about this.
Yeah, so in a year that was probably the most difficult for live events and entertainment, we set records. The Call of Duty League Champs Weekend was the most watched Call of Duty Esports match ever. You'll see down here our main metric that we measure is AMA viewership, which surfaced around 239,000 fans watching. We peaked at almost 340,000 fans watching, delivering an incredible amount of hours watched for the weekend. And then, as you'll note, just setting records not only for Call of Duty, but for what has been seen on YouTube for live esports. And not only on Call of Duty League, but we also did that for the Overwatch League Grand Finals. Going into our third Grand Finals, we set viewership records with the most people tuned in around the world. Really special for this unique audience during such difficulties to be watching and engaging so deeply. And as you flip to the next slide, Johanna, it's just really special to zone in on what that looks like. This shows that our average fan is 25 years old. As you compare that across the rest of the traditional sports landscape and those fans watching, what is so special about our esports leagues is we have the coveted audience that all brands, all entertainment properties are looking to attract. And not only do we have their attention, we have them incredibly deeply engaged for hours upon hours for several month-long season. And as you see on the next slide as well, our year-over-year viewership for this special group of 18 to 34-year-old fans is growing, both for the regular season as well as our special finals and champs. It's growing incredibly strong, and we are seeing the proof that the efforts that we're putting forth thus far are successful, and we'll continue to double down on them. So just to hit on a couple of those that have been successful for us, we'll continue to invest in content. I saw a question in chat of interesting that we transitioned from Twitch to YouTube. YouTube's content opportunity is just incredible. And as we think about our esports leagues, it's not just what we're doing live, it's what we're doing 365 to engage our fans. And speaking of our fans, a nice Dallas super fan here. Our communities are the backbone of our esports league. They are what give us such passion and excitement and create the content and offerings that we do. So we'll continue to tell the stories of those fans as well as our players. We'll continue to include our awesome influencers and community members. You'll see Courage down here of Call of Duty. They are so special to drive excitement around all of our efforts. And then we'll continue to innovate of everything that we're doing across live esports on YouTube. So our live viewing experience and broadcast integration and offerings will continue to be enhanced. The rewards that we're offering fans to tune in will continue to enhance, as well as the way we're thinking about our product, which is really dialing into these epic high stakes tournament moments. So with that, Johanna, we'll just close us out of how we'll continue to do that going forward.
Yeah, and it's very cool to see this, right? Opening weekend here coming up in less than a month. We're also going to have a major preseason beat for Call of Duty League in less than 2 weeks to celebrate the 1-year anniversary on January 23rd and 24th, which we're calling our Kickoff Classic. But effectively, we're back and back better than ever. And with Kristin and team at the helm to really make sure that we take all the learnings from a really crazy and wild 2020 and apply them to be much more sophisticated. And I think the energy and the momentum around these properties is really, really strong and really special. We're also super excited about some of the plans we've announced recently, as early as a few hours ago, even for Overwatch League 2021. You see the structure here. We're going to have even more of an East versus West component to some of the dynamic play and how we're going to operate and utilize certain transatlantic and trans-Pacific opportunities across our various regions to create, even in an online remote world, interregional competition amongst our 20 teams here in Overwatch League. So really cool, really awesome place to be, and we couldn't be more thrilled to bring it forward here in 2021. So with that, we thank you for the time.
Yeah, so a lot of great questions in chat, and we are going to be sticking around for the next 20 minutes with Nick joining us and actually getting to a lot of those questions already asked. So thank you for setting us up well for that.
Great. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, great. What a great keynote, and just a lot to build off from our conversation last week. So thank you. First, I'll start with thank you to Brand Innovators and everyone in the audience so much for joining us today for our Fireside chat discussion subsequent to the keynote that Johanna and Kristin just delivered around the future of gaming and esports. And a quick introduction, my name is Nick Barrionuevo. I'm the industry lead for gaming partnerships at Samsung Ads, where we work with partners looking to reach the gaming audience across our Samsung platform that captures and connects real-time TV and gaming behaviors and experiences on our smart TVs and connected devices. And whereas many of you out there in the audience have experienced, we have seen the number of active gamers double since last year, and this trend only continues to grow. So as you all just demonstrated, gaming and esports is at the forefront of entertainment in the media landscape, and Activision Blizzard is a pioneer and leader in the space. And during the past week, I've had the pleasure of speaking with you all and listening to your keynote and learning more about your passion for innovation and connecting with the consumers in new ways. And with 2020 being such a great breakout year, it's super exciting to see, what the future holds for esports and gaming. And I'm just super excited for our conversation. So let's dive in. So I know you gave a little bit of background around sort of your role at Activision Blizzard. I was wondering if you could give a bit more, just for the audience, a little bit more about your professional backgrounds, but really maybe jumping into sort of the second question, which was, a lot of people make sort of connections between esports and sports, and your backgrounds, Kristin, you worked at the New York Jets, and Johanna, spent so many years at the NFL. I was just wondering if any of that experience has informed how you look at gaming and esports fandom in your current roles.
Yeah, absolutely. So me and the entire team are obsessed with our fans and their thinking and how they engage with us and their fandom and their rituals and their traditions and their sense of community. And one thing, so if you borrow all of those time-honored things from traditional professional sports, it really does transition well over to esports. One thing that's so incredibly unique about esports, partly is the community. It's so powerful. It's a digital native, as Johanna mentioned, so the community is very much used to engaging with the property, but also with their fellow fans digitally. But it's also a property in which our fans both play and watch, which is really unique from traditional professional sports. I'm a huge football fan. I've never played, which is okay, but we have fans that will tune in not just to be entertained, but also to be educated and to get better at their game, which is really unique from their traditional sports base.
Totally. I mean, I don't have much to build on other than coming from the league office perspective. I think we think just about how do we borrow from those models? But to Kristin's point, this is a totally different consumer. You even saw the age delta that we shared, right? That's just one delta, but the dynamics, the psychographics, the segments that we look at even in how they behave in the game might translate into a different marketing strategy for how we're going to bring them into a viewing habit. So same mission to grow engagement and to drive, the ratings, if you will, up, but the way in which we do it and the who are very, very unique.
Yeah, that's great. And I know you spoke, sort of your presentation really touched on kind of how you pivoted last year, and a lot of it was around the operational aspect and structural. I was wondering, you mentioned some really core values like agility and versatility and also resilience. I've heard you speak about before as well. I guess from a marketing perspective, and how are you able to pivot from your marketing strategies that sort of you had going into the year and reach consumers in this new environment and innovate last year?
Yeah, so as we kind of mentioned, 2020 was set to be an epic year for us, for the first time ever, bringing our home events around the world. There's very little that can replicate that live in-venue atmosphere. For those that have been to any esport events, the screaming fans and the attention that they have on the stage for hours is just truly special. That being said, because our audience is young and mostly lives on digital and social platforms, our marketing efforts remained mostly unshifted, in the sense that that's how we engage with them, regardless of if we're live in person on events or not. But the things that we did shift to do a bit differently are how we engaged with them while they were watching live, and not only how we as the league did, but how our teams around the world adapted. So a great example is on the Overwatch League side, how fan groups set up live Discord channels to do fan viewing parties together. Just because when it comes around, the postseason, you want to watch, with your friends. And another great example is on the Call of Duty League side. One of our key partners, Game Fuel, their goal was to distribute 6-pack cans to fans. Well, when we couldn't do live events, that shifted, but they found an innovative work with us to provide and mail those cans to thousands of people around the world. Chipotle is another example. We partnered with them for Champs, where they gave away free burritos in chat. You just had to redeem a code. So we found interactive ways to engage with our fans and deepen that engagement, as Johanna mentioned. And that's what our marketing, really is about. It's about engagement content. It's, of course, I think there's a question in chat of, do we do advertising and how do we kind of attract the fans? We do all the traditional efforts, making a lot more of that interactive engagement with our partners and with our fan offerings.
That's great. And, I think for the audience, some folks in your presentation definitely sort of set the stage from a macro perspective of sort of who this audience is. But I think, folks that are sort of immersed in gaming sort of know that there's sort of certain distinctions and nuances to the gaming and esports audience. But maybe for everyone else, you could talk a little bit about what we might not know about this audience. You spoke about sort of the age, and how it's really sort of that, younger cord cutter, probably more attractive to brands type audience. Is there anything else you could add to that?
Yeah, I'll go first, and then certainly, Kristin, if you have any builds. One, I think, is really interesting in that we have sister leagues in our portfolio with really different demographic trends. So Call of Duty League is going to get you a Western skewing, more often than not North American and Western European skewing, English speaking, again, more often than not, hyper male demographic. Doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of women in the system, and there are actually a lot of tons of women, hundreds of thousands of women who are competing even at the amateur level. But nonetheless, it's going to skew much more in that direction. Overwatch League, much more global, over-indexes much more in APAC regionally. A vast majority of the player base, Korean. So it's already going to give you this diverse portfolio. As we talk about, even at the ownership level, we have several owners who not only own traditional sports teams, but they also have invested in many areas of our business where they actually own both an Overwatch League team and a Call of Duty League team, because the fan bases are so different and we're not going to see a lot of cannibalization there. There are other things that I often talk about, just the style of the community, the vernacular that's used, the tonal shifts that we need to make from a content delivery perspective. Certain things that would absolutely hit on the mark with the Overwatch League community from a content generation perspective on YouTube would fail before it even hit the gate, so to speak, on CDL, and vice versa. So humor is different. There's a little bit of a WWE factor in that it's very influencer and personality driven in the Call of Duty ecosystem, especially because you have a lot of what we would call mainstream pop culture Larry Halo benefits that Call of Duty as a franchise just brings to the table that you see coming into the sport, if you will. Overwatch League, vibrant, much more progressive, all about inclusivity, just even from how it comes across on the screen, but also just, again, the values that it evokes are much less WWE and NFL and much more uniting gamers and fans of a very progressive, hopeful, and optimistic brand. And I love that. I love the difference that these bring and the way we can have different conversations even on similar platforms.
Yeah, 100%. Those are all the keys. I think two other nuggets that just really strike me as interesting as a marketer coming from the traditional professional sports space. One, Johanna hit on that agility is in our DNA. The reason that is because our fans are agile and they are open to us adapting and changing and shifting things on them, sometimes on a year-to-year basis, sometimes on a month-to-month, sometimes on a day-to-day. And that's how we were able to shift during the difficulties of COVID to online, because our fans embraced it. We'll recognize sometimes when we make a wrong product decision and we shift it. Same thing with the marketing. Our community will be very vocal, but they'll also be understanding and accepting when maybe we don't get something right. So we have that flexibility to test and learn and optimize. With the kind of grace of our community understanding that and sharing with us as we build these leagues together. And then just, the second part, which I also just found so fascinating, is how embracing our fan bases are with our partners and our sponsors. Not only do they embrace them, they feel that when big brand partners come on, I mentioned earlier, we've had some awesome partners from Coca-Cola to Metro, T-Mobile, Game Fuel, State Farm, et cetera, a lot of which you see in the big sports leagues. But when those brands come on board to partner with us, they feel a sense of validation of, wow, we are a really established league, and that's what we sought to do for both of these leagues is to establish a professional system in which our fans could consistently follow their favorite game and connect with like-minded community members with it. So that's just been really cool, and it just allows us to do a lot of cool engagement partnerships with those brands and get this up for our fans.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for that. And I think kind of just building on that is, in our sort of previous conversation, you spoke about sort of the power of tournaments in esports and kind of the fan focus and just, it's all about the fans and the consumers. And from a global marketing perspective, can you talk a little bit more about kind of your approach to fan engagement? I know you sort of touched on it in your keynote, and how and where you're looking to sort of grow your audience.
Yeah, so again, the sister league opportunity as a marketer is just so awesome because we think about them similarly but differently. On the Overwatch League side, it's all about the community. So as we're thinking about growth and engagement, how do we dive deeper into the community? How do we dive into anime and the meme culture and have a lot more fun, because we can do that. That is what the Overwatch community embraces. So celebrating, UGC and fan art and highlighting players around the world as part of our league, as you think about how you're tuning into broadcast, is something that we're doubling down on. On the Call of Duty League side, it is a lot more influencer driven. There are incredible celebrities that are deep into the Call of Duty franchise, both endemic within the esports space like a Courage that I mentioned, but also professional athletes, that are loving and supporting Call of Duty. And coupled with that is also, I saw this in chat of, we did the, as mentioned in the keynote, the Billionaire Boys Club collaboration is continuing collaboration that puts the Call of Duty League in the epicenter of coolness and street culture and the next trend. And so that is a different avenue that we explore for Call of Duty League than necessarily the Overwatch League, although the Overwatch League also in its own right is super cool, and our players have been featured in Vogue in Korea, for example, for their kind of style. So continuing to lean into that and finding collaborations and putting our properties in unexpected places that perhaps gaming and esports previously hasn't been, although you'll see the paradigm really has been shifting over the past few years to people finally recognizing and celebrating that esports and gaming is cool. It is part of culture, and so many more people are playing and watching than previously thought of.
Yeah, my only builds on that too. I saw somebody shouting out the Jimmy Fallon piece. Exactly right? Like showing up in these places that, people are still sort of don't even know what esports is, a huge win for us every time we get done. We're also looking at the in-game audiences. I would call out Call of Duty only because, as Kristin mentioned, Keynote, it's expanded its bandwidth beyond sort of like this, mainline premium SKU that has been at a certain price point for a certain consumer specs every fall, a new title to drop. That's still the coolness. But what happened in 2020 is now we've got a free-to-play consumer coming in at a clip of hundreds of millions of people. We also have a free-to-play mobile consumer who came in through COD Mobile in regions where the mainline was not going to light up. About the Middle East, talking about, all kinds of different territories, even in Latin, that we may not have been able to have a conversation around. Hey, if you like Call of Duty, try sport, trial its professional league. So even as you talk about growth, Nick, you hit the nail on the head. That's the word for us in these next few years. We're also going to even think about how do we grow within our own, consumer base, our own player base, because rate is very nascent when you think about how much room we have to go.
That's really interesting. And that's, I was going to ask about starting to look ahead, and any new consumer trends that, that you've been learning, which you sort of just articulated, and, that you sort of plan to bring over into 2021. And, if there's any others you'd want to kind of call out, whether it's, live content experiences or cross-platform opportunities or, certain types of content initiatives that open it up to you.
I mean, personally, we're all excited to get back to live events. Don't let that get lost in the dialogue. Like, we're super proud about being agile and having pivoted. And, we often cite the joke that I think was like a meme for a week there or something, where in 2019, esports weren't sports, and then in 2020 they were the only sport. Like that's a really big shift for the industry. But we all want to get back to Wells Fargo Arena. We want to get back to the energy that can only come from that main stage experience, as Kristin was talking about. And I'm sure that most of the people listening, I would venture to guess, have not attended necessarily a high profile live arena based esports event. And that is absolutely the best thing that you can be doing as a brand who's looking to sort of dive in or dip in or get more educated, but also to really understand how these things can be so strong as a fan experience, but also as why I think there's so much momentum around the space. So we do want to get back to that for sure. Your point is well taken, though. I mean, even in Samsung and the product offerings, I think we're really excited about content for the smart TV buyer, and how do they sit on the couch and have a CDL and Overwatch League experience? What does that need to look like, even if you're dropping into the YouTube app on your big screen, which is how I watch the matches, versus NBC or CBS, for example. Linear is still going to be a huge conversation in terms of how we grow and where we take it. And then lastly, I'd say we often think about designing content for somebody who's watching it on mute and who has a on glass experience, right? Because that's the vast majority of the viewer base and the player base. They're on their phones. So you're thinking multi-platform, and to your point, thinking, well, not every content piece is going to fit in those different types of experiences the same way. So how are we efficient in what we do, but also cross-platform as a mindset? I think we look at that sort of as table stakes versus trying to make one thing fit every type of style.
Yeah, 100%. I think one, misconception on esports fans is that they're all the same, and they're not. They're just like any other sports or any other consumer, in the sense that our segmentation and our offerings of different content and different ways to engage with our brand is critical, because of course our loyal, diehard, avid fan is going to be tuning in to our 10-hour broadcast every single weekend. But the more casual fan wants a different way, which is why being on YouTube is so special for us, and how we're looking to further invest in the content that not only we create, but also the community and influencers create in partnership with us, because not every fan is going to be able to invest that amount of time. So they want to rather check out highlights, on their phone as they're kind of passing by, or they may just want to watch a video more around behind the scenes access to the players, or how teams prepare and kind of all that fun thing. So we have to be really smart and targeted in the different types of content and product perspective that we're giving for our fans, and provide that where they are. So if they're mostly living in game, or living on their computer or on their mobile, we need to think about not only how we're offering that from an esports space, but also how we're partnering with what the game marketing teams are doing to reach their fans and collaborate on all of that together.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I imagine the YouTube partnership has probably been instrumental in being able to kind of reach consumers on all platforms, right? And sort of at scale, and I imagine that's been really important to you. And what's interesting, and I'll sort of bring this up because it was in the press yesterday, is the Kickoff Classic, or 2 days ago, I remember watching in Minnesota last year, right, when you started the season, and I thought that it was an interesting sort of convergence of the tournament sort of fan-focused structure, but also it's a way for viewers to see Black Ops Cold War, right, the new Call of Duty, sort of in action in a competitive sort of setting. I know, just wanted to ask if you had any comments on that.
For sure. So a couple of things in there. First of all, thank you for plugging Kickoff Classic. We are very appreciative of that. Everybody should tune in. But I think a few layers that I was really proud of the team in rolling out. The fans voted on the matches they wanted to see. And we collaborated again, which is one of our 5 big values, on just, find a good idea. Let's bring this community in. And that's a really low stakes event. It's a preseason event. It's the first time our fans are going to be able to see, the action. And we have a lot of new teams, in the queue for season 2, with 100 Thieves having come in through LA Thieves, and Chicago's now rebranded. It's, I won't get into all of that. It's probably too core, but it's a very, very big deal. I mean, these are massive entertainment and content brands now, a part of the CDL. So that's going to be exciting in its own right, but to be able to let fans vote and see how engaged they were. just organically across our social media platform. Let's say, hey, I want to see this matchup, or I don't want to see that matchup. The way that really took off in just a matter of a day was really cool, and therefore I think will translate into a pretty good event here in a few days. And then the other thing I would say, to your point about contrasting it from last year, when it was such about a high-profile live arena event, here comes this new big thing that's on behalf of Call of Duty. I think what we're excited about with the Kickoff Classic is it enables storytell with a lot more intentionality. It kind of sets the table for maybe listeners on this call, for example. They say, I don't know what's going on here. Get me the 101. How does the sport played? What does 100 Thieves even mean? What does Optic even mean? Why are Toronto and Minnesota rivals? Who owns these teams? How's it played? The Kickoff Classic allows for somebody who's curious about this space or casually interested in this space to learn, to latch on to human interest stories, to latch on to personalities, to latch on to rivalries 2 weeks prior to us saying, okay, now it's go time. It's week 1, opening week. And so I'm excited about that because I think, one, fans have had a direct influence on the schedule. But more importantly, it really allows us to continue to introduce this new product in a way that I think is going to be really good for, again, the casual or the esports curious, as I often talk about, to say, come in, learn, you're not behind. In fact, you're ahead of the game now, and then really get smart about how we go big a few weeks later. I don't know, Kristin, if you'd had anything that I missed.
Yeah, I just wanted to underscore the first point that you made, because there was a question in chat of what makes our esport and so special that brands want to be a part of it. And it's exactly what Johanna opened with, is it's the deep engagement that they have with us. And we've been able to foster that through the access that we've given them. So, she kind of shared the engagement that we had on the voting mechanism, but how powerful is it that we allow our fans to control the product that we are creating? And that, again, we have the agility to do so, but because of that, they're even more engaged. And that's just one of many examples that just fosters that deepened engagement. But we purposely put the community and the fan as part of our decision making and as part of our product. They help us build it together, which is what makes our fandom so special.
That's great. And just closing out with our final question here is just, really, it sounds like you're off and running 2021. It's just really excited about what's to come. From your perspective, do you think sort of this continued growth in esports can be sustained and into the future? And if so, how?
I'll go first. Absolutely. I wouldn't have left the NFL if I didn't think that, right? This is definitely the future. But I'm often, 2 feet on the ground. I know Kristin is as well. We're not overly bullish. I think when people say that, we're not selling anyone anything. It's you run the numbers, think about the innovation and the pace of the innovation that's happening, how quickly we're optimizing our products at Activision Blizzard, Riot, at Epic, and I could go on and on. There's sort of this collective industry-wide agreement sense of it's here, it has happened. It is the global takeover. It is the next era, frankly, of competitive entertainment, full stop. Now that we've sort of landed that argument, now it's just about iterating together, figuring together, scaling businesses and remuneration behind it, getting sponsors who have been into the conversation, right? And so that's, to me, the next clip. But whether it happen and how big it's going to be it's undisputed at this point, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I think Johanna said this during the keynote of how nascent we are. We are just getting started. And by we, I mean the collective we in the esports space. Even though esports has been functioning for 2 decades, the paradigm has started to shift again with digital and social technologies shifting and expanding. So it will only continue to do so. And someone also asked in chat of what innovations, are we looking forward to? Broadcast tech, which I can't even begin to explain, that's under Johanna's purview, is just so incredible, the pace in which it's shifting. I think people don't realize, like, we skipped over that. Sure, it only took us a couple of weeks to get up and running in the digital world, but what that means when you operate a global league, which really no other competitive entertainment brand does, and you're thinking about how the server pings and the bit rates of everything connected, how you do that across the entire world, the innovations needed there, even what we saw this year, is just so incredible. So as much as we talk about the forward fan-facing innovations and what is to come there, there's so much happening on the back end that we're just getting started on, and really excited to see in the years and decades to come how this will continue to build, and the next generation that adapts. We're also in the first generational fandom that's experiencing esports, this under 34 group. So what's going to happen when that gets passed down to the next generation? It's going to look completely different, and I think blow everyone away.
That's amazing. And I look forward to continuing the conversation around all the things that you just mentioned, because there's so much to explore. But thank you so much to Brand Innovators and Johanna and Kristin for your time. This has been an amazing discussion. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you as well.
Thank you guys all so much for closing out. What an incredible final session and panel to have. I feel like we got the most questions submitted for this one, so it just is a testament to how engaged everyone was in the content you were sharing. So thank you so much, and have a great rest of your afternoons.